Oh, hello everybody. Just getting set up here. Let's do this, shall we? Make this look slightly more professional. I think the fingers is here already. Someone has already given me a thank you thumbs up. I appreciate that. What are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about, when we get going, that is, scale versus sales. Until then, we're going to be talking, just trying to get everything set up here. Hello, Paolo. Thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. Let me get there we go. I got some cars here. We're going to be talking about these guys as examples. 12 people already. Hello, folks. Thanks for showing up. Going to get started here in a little bit with the topic of the day, which is sliding a slot car back and forth. No, it's not. Which is scale versus sales. Hey, Jersey Mike. Thanks very much for showing up. I appreciate it. Cheers, everybody. Just a little bit of water to keep me talking this morning. So if you have any questions, John, thank you very much for showing up. I am well. Appreciate it. If you have any questions today, please feel free to ask while I'm blabbering on, and I'll see what I can do about answering them. I appreciate everybody stopping by, doing the stream in the studio this morning, the basement, just because it's a little chilly outside. I'm very happy about that, and also, hey Chuck, thanks for showing up. It's a little too damp outside. I wanted to stream after the Formula One race, and I wanted to watch the F1 race on my back porch, but there's dew everywhere, so it's a little too chilly, a little too damp out there to stream. See if we can get a little more interesting framing going on here without my computer taking a tumble. My laptop off of the back there. Which track surface is grippier? That's a very good question. Damp in Russia too. Very made for a very interesting race. So as far as I've seen, and I believe most people will agree with this, although I'm sure there's plenty of people that just simply won't. Rough surface. Garth, cheers, man. Thanks for showing up. I think rough surface track, like the Polycar track I have here, as you can see, it's another piece of it, is very rough. Got a lot of texture to it, a lot of tooth to it, and you can really you can use stock tires on this track, and the track really the cars really stick well. I've been using some slotted stock cars with stock tires, and on this Polycar track, or the Polycar track that's out in my garage, and it sticks. They stick like you would hope they would. It's a pet peeve of mine. You probably noticed that one of the things we do in the hobbyists do in the hobby, is that they tell a new hobbyist, hey, the fingers, thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. They tell new racers, hey, you just bought this track. I think you're going to need to start replacing everything to race on it. You're going to need to replace tires. You're going to need to replace this, that, and the other thing. And that scares people off. I mean, it just does. So if you're starting with a track system, and, I've mentioned this before, folks who come here often know it. Full disclosure, I consult for Polycar and Slotted. It's the same company, owned by Maurizio. Regardless, I say what I want about track. I have no agreement with Maurizio that I talk nice about his stuff. I like his stuff. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to work for him. consult for them. Very small part I play. I just basically manage their social media. That's it. And this track is excellent track. I would tell you if I didn't like it. Hello, Martin. Cheers. Thanks for showing up. I would tell you if I didn't like it. I would not be using it on my table for my track if I didn't like it. I have a hell of a lot more Scale Extra track that I could be using. I have some more Carrera track that I could be using. I'm not. I can choose the track I want to race on now that I'm really not working for, well, I'm not working for a company anymore. I want to race on this track. I want to build my own personal track out of this track because, in my experience, it is the best track, the most grippy track you can buy, and there you go. It's the best stuff. Dave, can you compare Carrera Go to SCX Compact? So I would say I have both of it here, and I should talk more specifically about that. My general feeling is the tracks are very, very similar. They're very similar. They're very similar in design. They're very similar in track surface. I do need to break some of it out. I don't have it handy, so I can't do that now. I will try to remember before next stream, okay? I will try to break out some track, some SCX compact track, and some Carrera Go track, or even some Carrera First track. These are the first cars. It's the battery-operated 1/50th scale stuff. I will break some out and compare it. I will do that. Thank you for asking that, Garth. I really appreciate it. Dave, are you familiar with a German company that makes adapters from plastic to wood? You're welcome to mention the name of the company if you have it on the top of your mind. I know I've certainly heard many companies that do make that kind of thing. I don't have a specific thought about that. I mean, if you're going to race on a wood track, I would just rather race on a wood track. I don't really, unless you're going to adapt Carrera Digital, which is probably why they're adapting plastic to wood. I don't know why you do that otherwise. If that's why, then you'd adapt plastic to wood because to race digital. Okay, I get that. That's nothing that I would personally want to do. But yeah, okay, no problem, Mike. Yeah, I mean, it's probably to be able to adapt to make a wood digital track more easily than cutting in lane changes and things like that, or fabricating lane changes into a wood track, that sort of thing. Yeah, probably. But yeah, so see what else here. Thanks, Dave. Paulo mentioned thanks, Dave, but wood surface is very smooth. Isn't it grippier than plastic? So my experience with wood track, I have a wood track here, by the way. I will be doing some test driving on it. It's a mess in my garage, and I don't feel comfortable. I just feel bad about how bad it looks. I need to clean off the wood track, and I need to get it ready to be in videos, that sort of thing. I will be doing something on wood fairly soon. I love wood. Yes, wood can be grippier. Certainly different times of the year, it feels like it's grippier than others. So my uncle built me a wood track years ago. He built himself a wood track years ago. And we noticed, and this was, before I was like super into, I didn't really race at a club. I just raced with him at his house. And we noticed that it would be grippier. I forget if it was grippier in the winter or in the summer. I think it was in the winter. And we figured that it had to do with humidity, maybe temperature, but probably humidity, because wood, particle board, or not particle board, MDF, medium density fiberboard, is very sensitive to changes in humidity. Of course, it's just basically wood chips, wood powder that's held together by glue. So it's going to be very, very. William Hacker says Harrell's from Germany. I think that could very well be. I have never seen Harrell's track. It looks absolutely fantastic. We noticed that certain times of year, yes, Paolo, it was much grippier than other times of the year. So it also depends on how much you rubber it in, or how clean it is. If you're racing with silicone tires, rubbered in track we're going to be really, really grippy, right? It's just going to be like crazy grippy. So yeah, I mean, it does depend on the time of year. Absolutely depends on the time of year. Holy crap, we got about 30 folks here now. Cheers. Clem. Everybody say hi to Clem, please. Clem's a buddy of mine. We've traveled a bunch together. He's gone on the road with me a bunch of times, or I've gone on the road with him, maybe, depending on how you look at it. He and I are mini friends, and he's an OG slot car racer from the '60s, and I love him. He's a great guy. He's a good friend. So we're going to talk about scale versus sales today. We're at about 6 minutes after 11. Got about 32 people. Cheers, guys. 31. As soon as I say that, it goes down one. Anyway, so to sound very businesslike about this, scale versus sales. Where do we come down on the scale versus sales thought? Where, guys? What do you think? Out of all of these cars, all of the cars at a similar scale. It's a very leading question. Actually, I know the answer. So anyway, I wanted to talk about production numbers loosely today. I wanted to talk about the how well cars scales sell, sort of comparing apples to apples if there is a comparison. So here we go. You have to understand something, okay? Brian weighs in HO by far. You'd think. There's several ways to approach this, right? If you're a hobbyist, you're of the opinion that the hobby, the slot car hobby, which is largely supported by sales by online and by hobby shops, if you're still lucky enough to have a hobby shop near you, and maybe by price, but that's what you're thinking. So if you're a hobbyist, you're thinking, well, whatever you're, I don't want to say biased, and it has a negative connotation, but you're probably biased in thinking that your favored scale is the one that sells best, right? Because that's probably what you're into. But you'd be wrong. Why would you be wrong? Now, this is based on years of working at Carrera and working at SCX before that, and then working at Scalextric all too briefly. If you got to understand where the biggest sales are. Now I'm talking about in the US, right? So if you have a mass market person that buys from you, if you have, let's say, Walmart or Target, or, well, it used to be Toys R Us. They don't exist anymore, sadly. That's where the biggest sales come from in the US, right? So, good morning, Jeff. So you have to look at what's available for sale in the mass market, because that is far and away the largest share of where things will be sold. Obviously, Walmart is the US's largest single employer, I believe, outside of the US government. And they have more stores all over the US than probably anybody but maybe McDonald's, I'm guessing. So or Target has a lot of stores. Let's say you sell a set to Walmart. And over the years, when I had been at Carrera, we had tried. When I had been at SCX, we had succeeded. We had sold a set to, I think it was only one set, might have been two, to Target. And if you're selling in that kind of market, you know how those companies buy, right? They buy by the container. They don't buy by the piece. Well, they do, but they want, how many containers can you load up? An HO slot car set box is pretty big. Generally speaking, HO sets are a little bigger with track pieces, more track pieces than, let's say, 143rd, where 143rd, it's basically all about price. And can you get the lowest possible price to get your set into the mass market? Okay, so when I worked at Carrera, we had several sets that were in the mass market. We had some at Toys R Us. We had some, I think we were on the edge of getting one at Walmart. We definitely had one at Target as well. And then we had the sets at their .coms as well. So if you know how those people buy, they buy tens of thousands of sets in a year. Okay? They are far and away the largest outlet for sets. They just are. If you look, there are no HO sets in the mass market. There are none. There are some that are in Hobby Lobby, and you'd see them in hobby towns. Hobby towns don't really have that great market penetration all over the U.S. Hobby Lobby is definitely getting better market penetration in the U.S. We just got a Hobby Lobby here, very near me, so I can go back and I can go to Hobby Lobby now and get the deals on models and whatever. And they do have an HO set. It's a Swede Savage set with a CUDA and, is it two CUDAs or just one CUDA? I think it might be a CUDA and a Mustang. Not really sure. But so that definitely adds to HO's penetration into the market. I'm sure those people, the Hobby Lobby people, bought a few thousand sets for probably nationwide distribution. They buy FOB China, which means freight on boat China. They would then send it to their distribution centers. Then they in turn send them out to their retail stores that they all own. So you have to look at what's in the market, and then you can figure out basically who's the biggest in the market. If you look around in the market and you see no HO at Walmart, which you don't, you see nearly no HO or some HO at Hobby Lobby, along with a Carrera set, by the way. And then you see at Target, currently I haven't seen any Carrera sets. I'm not sure if Carrera is totally out of Target, but you see no HO there as well. Now, all of the online stores that are just slot car stores are a fraction of what a mass market retailer would do with any set. So take the biggest online dealers for any scale, and they are infinitesimally smaller, essentially a rounding error for Walmart of that type of store, or Target, that type of store. So really, it's going to be 143rd that is far and away the largest scale by volume, by sales. When I worked for Carrera, we did, I think, And I've done videos about this in the past, so I'm going by those numbers, which would have been numbers that I would have talked to one of my own bosses about, and because he has a better recollection of the overall numbers we did. Now these are the 150th scale, the Carrera First stuff, which sold very well into the mass market as well into the hobby, because these are battery operated cars. They're, I think, 6-volt cars. They were in a very small figure 8 set and a slightly larger other beginner set. And this scale is all about price. 143rd is all about price. Walmart will sell a 143rd scale set of their own brand make. They do, as they call it in England, own brand. They call it here in the U.S. house brand. They make their own. They make their own brand of set. And for the life of me, I can't remember it. Kid Connection? Not really sure. It's not good. They retail these for $19.99. It's a figure 8 set. It's a battery operated set. It's a 143rd scale set. That set, if it's still in the market, I'm not sure that. I mean, during the summer, it might not necessarily be in Walmart. In the fall and winter, of course, when slot car sales happen here in North America, that is when they might change their planogram, the things that they sell in the set, in the stores rather, to their more Christmassy kinds of things. So it's important to understand what you're looking at when you're looking at products on a shelf in a mass market store. If you see HO at Walmart, you know that someone has scored big, right? That's several $1 million an order per SKU, per part number, that if someone got a set into Walmart, they're going to be making a nationwide release. Walmart does do releases regionally to their more key stores. There are some stores that sell better, obviously, than other stores in the Walmart chain. So they kind of give you a flyer, a test market when you're becoming a vendor for them, and you can get a national deal, or you can just get kind of like a test. We were working on that when I was working at Skelectric. They had wanted to, Walmart had, and I was there for the meeting. I took notes during the meeting. I still have the notes when my boss at the time was talking with the buyer for Walmart, who is now not there anymore. But I had copious notes from that meeting. I remember, the notes, I can read them, exactly what he asked us for. We showed him a number of planograms, some of which, no, I think I threw them away after I let go. I still had some of the planograms. I still do have the pictures of the projected sets, the prospective sets that we had built up for Walmart. They were just pictures. You don't actually build a set or produce a set in this case until someone gives you an order. And, had we gotten an order from Walmart, it would have been, even at a small test, it would have been probably $2 million order, which would have been a huge order. That's one set. They would have wanted, several containers of it. It might have been, I don't know, a 5,000 set order, a 10,000 set order. You need to really go big when you're doing deals with Walmart, because you need to provide them with the exact number of sets they want, at exactly the price they want, with exactly the decoration they want, exactly when they want it. And if you don't, you're basically never going to do business with them again. Okay? So you're looking at, the idea here is that these small cars represent 143rd scale. They are 150th scale. So these would represent Carrera Go, right? So these cars would sell probably 20 times better than this, which sells 3 or 4 times better than 124th scale. Okay? So we would sell on a good set for a mass market retailer, 200,000 sets of these. Phenomenal numbers of a 143rd scale set. What would we sell of a good set for 1/32 scale in analog or digital for Carrera, or when I worked for SCX years ago? SCX, I'm not really sure of the numbers we did for sets, but it was reasonably small because we really didn't, our set sales were okay. And Scalextric set sales are about the same analog what they were for Carreras. So we would sell on a good set. I think Scalextric would make us commit to 2,500, somewhere around 2,000 sets. Or they would really push sometimes and say, you got to take 5,000 sets. 5,000 sets for 1/32 scale analog for basically anybody is at least 3 years worth of sets for a good selling set. It just is. Now, when I worked for Carrera, this is a Carrera, as you probably all know, 1/24 scale car. It's digital 1/24 scale car. When we sold 1/24 scale sets, the 1/24 scale set, we'd be lucky if we brought in 300 pieces. No, what am I saying? 300 pieces. 150 pieces, whatever the round number was for, well, they would have been master pack case quantities of one. So probably no more than 150 pieces of this. As far as cars, we would have sold no more than about 300 of a good car to the hobby market here in the U.S., North America, however you want to look at it. 50 people, folks. Holy cow. Thank you all very much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Now, for a good selling car for Carrera, when I worked for them a few years ago, and Scalextric when I worked for them 2 years ago now, time flies when you're in a pandemic, right? We would sell about 2,000 of a really good Scalextric car. Obviously, they're analog cars because Scalextric does not make digital cars specifically. They only make analog cars for solo cars, for single car sales, right? The car in a crystal case. That's what a solo car is in Scalextric lingo. And for Carrera, it would have been about the same. If you were lucky, you'd sell about 2,000 of a really good selling car in a year, but really no more than that. Here in the U.S., I'm talking about U.S. and Canada. So, and then for a good selling car in 1/43 scale, again, these are not 1/43 scale cars, but a good selling car for 1/43 scale would have been somewhere about 2,000 pieces because those cars are about $20 a piece. This car, 1/32 scale car, is about $50 to $65 now. Here in the U.S., prices have gone up. I expect them to go up more this year. I expect them to go up again next year as well. People are having a hard time making enough inventory available here in the market. So, you gotta raise prices. This is not a charity. People have to make money. This is a business. I totally get that. I understand. And the companies need to make money. They need to stay alive because we need them. We do. And then, of course, the retail cost on a 1/24 scale car is at least, in theory, $70 now, maybe closer to 85 in some places. In Europe, the 1/24 scale car is, I think, €100. And then a digital 132 for Carrera, the retail price on that would be somewhere around $75 or $80. Carrera cars are a good deal more expensive in Germany, as if there's anybody here from Germany can attest to. Feel free to put in the chat what you're paying for a Carrera car in Germany, if there's somebody here, or if you happen to buy cars from Europe. You're welcome to put that there. Yeah, so basically that's sort of it. Each year the mass market changes, right? So it may be that there is an HO company. Hello, Robert. Thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate you stopping by. It very well may be that there is a name brand HO set in the mass market, but look and see for yourself what's in the mass market in your area. If you see something in the mass market, I'm not talking about a hobby shop. That's not the mass market. I'm talking about Hobby Lobby. I'm talking about Walmart, Target, Best Buy. Best Buy actually has a really good full aisle that they put in of toys during the Christmas season. So Best Buy is really being a player now on a seasonal basis for for toy stores, especially since Toys R Us really doesn't exist anymore. They have had pop-up stores, Toys R Us had in various markets. I think we might have had a Toys R Us pop-up at my mall here in Pennsylvania, but they're pretty hit and miss. Just so you know, hello Don, thanks for showing up. Cheers, I appreciate it. Just so you know, in Canada, Toys R Us is an entirely different company. That yes, they have the same name, they may have the same logo, but the company is operated by a Canadian company, and I believe they still have the right to use the TRU name, the Toys R Us name, in Canada. So that's why there may be some Toys R Us in different markets. Hello, Robert. Yes, great Formula One race today. It was the Formula One race we wish we would always have. Lots of lead changes. Rain at the end made it interesting, and Lando Norris being so strong, certainly through almost all of the race, and then sliding off. Hey, John from Long Island, Strong Island, baby. Thanks for stopping by, John. I really appreciate it. Lando Norris being so strong and then sliding off with 3 laps to go. That was just a killer. I'm a Hamilton fan. He's the best American best American F1 racer. I think he's a closet American F1 racer. I'm a huge Hamilton fan. I think he's great for the sport, and I think Norris is the up and coming guy who will challenge Verstappen over the next decade. Let's face it, Hamilton only has so much time left. He's getting a little older, although he's still really, really amazing driver. Now the best all-time driver, I believe you can say that because he has more wins than anybody else in Formula One. He has 100 wins as of today's race. And I mean, people, yes, I know he's a Brit, but I think he's a closet American, is what I'm saying. He's a little too brash, I think, for the Brits, and certainly for a lot of Americans too. But I think he's fantastic. But I think Hamilton's, I think he's only got a couple of years left for sure, and then clearly it's going to be Verstappen's going to be the number 1 driver in the series, and then I believe Norris is going to be right there with him. I agree, Paolo. I mean, totally. It shows you to be able to go from 20th all the way down to, hey, Mac, thanks for showing up, to go from 20th to 2nd. Hamilton has done this sort of thing where you go from essentially last to, podium. It shows you how much faster the top 2 teams are really. It's just, you can't even compare the top 2 teams to all of the other teams. And obviously, Mercedes and Red Bull are the top 2. McLaren has come on as of late. They clearly figured something out, and their drivers they're spectacular. But it's, really hard to say, and I think most F1 fans would admit, it's really hard to say that they're really, that McLaren is really getting the most out of a car that's probably not as good, as a Red Bull or as a Mercedes. So anyway, that's a little, I know a little bit about F1. I followed it for years, and it's something that's, I really like it. It's probably the type of racing that I enjoy watching most. Anyway, so here endeth the discussion about scale versus sales. Hopefully, people found that interesting. If you have any questions or comments, I'm all ears. I know that people challenge me on this, and that's fine. On well, what really sells best? Well, if you do know how the mass market companies buy, if you see a slot car set in the mass market, you then know which is the best selling slot car set probably in the world, because just on the volume alone that the mass market demands from people, that just means that they will sell the most of that slot car set, not just here in the US, but pretty much worldwide. Chuck says, do you think that Hamilton would retire to sports cars or Indy? So I think he certainly could retire to sports cars. I think that's a definite option. Mercedes has a big sports car program that could use a Hamilton injection. Being a little cheeky there. Thanks, Paolo. They could use an injection of some talent, some pizzazz, some charisma, if you will, into the racing series for sports cars. Sports car racing definitely does not have the appeal, the profile that Formula One does, or NASCAR does here in the U.S. So would he retire to that? It's entirely likely. Indy, on the other hand, I have rather controversial things to say about Indy. So I want to preface this by saying I'm not hating on Indy. And if you like Indy, that's fine. Please continue to like it. Please don't take personally what I'm about to say. Indy is one of the worst marketed, least understood racing series that happens here in the U.S. Okay? Why do I say this? The Indy 500 is essentially the only race that matters for Indy. I've talked to people anecdotally about this in all the years I've done events for companies. And when you take notes, and I have, when you talk to people about what do you watch, what races do you watch, what series do you watch, what kind of cars do you like, when you do this over 12 years or so, I have done events, more than 12, 14 years. I had done events for slot car companies. And when you ask people about IndyCar, the general public, the only race that the general public knows on the IndyCar series is the Indy 500. They don't know what they're looking at the rest of the time. They don't follow it the rest of the season. The cars are not particularly good looking. They all run at 100% power around the big tracks. They're drafting the entire time. It's like watching paint dry as far as I'm concerned. I would rather watch BTCC than Formula One. Fair enough. I mean, touring car racing, DTM racing is really exciting. The Finger says that's about the only race that the 500 is the only one. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's the only one that people really know. When you show people in the U.S. any open wheel car, they immediately think it's an Indy car, and yet they don't know any of the other races. And I don't see it having the backing from the current sponsors that he has. Now, would he have to change sponsors if he started Indy? yeah, I mean, he's sponsored by Mercedes. He's sponsored. There's no Mercedes anything in Formula One, or in Indy rather. It's what, Honda engines or Chevy. I don't even know. I sort of watch an Indy race here and there, and I'm just so repelled by the design of the cars. I just think it looks, the design of the cars looks horrendous, and it's just I don't personally, I find them repellent. Oh well, we got a bunch of comments. Okay, Dirty Santa. Hello, Dirty Santa. What's the cost to create a standalone slot car? Okay, so there are several costs in creating a slot car. Let's take this slot car for example. Let's say you want to do a Porsche. Well, you'd have to get Porsche to sign off, which is not that difficult. If you do an exact livery on a Porsche, like this Flying Lizard livery, Porsche has to sign off on it. Flying Lizard has to sign off on it. Generally speaking, the drivers have to sign off on it. The team might require some money, which may be as little as $5,000, sometimes maybe a little less. Porsche requires a license that would be several $1,000s. A mold for an injection molded slot car, like for this high detail car, this mold would have been, years ago, somewhere around 60, depending on the number of parts, somewhere around $60,000 to $100,000 just for the mold. Okay? Let's say you actually want to make money making a slot car. You need to have a tremendous volume to make money, because per livery, you're only going to sell here in the US about 2,000 pieces of this. Now, if you put this car in a set, Charles, thanks very much for showing up. Taller de Slot, saludos desde España. Cheers. Thank you very much that was a butchering, I'm sure, of what you said. Thank you very much, Gracias, for showing up. I appreciate it. You're going to have to make many, many, many liveries of this one mold as it is to make this car make money, right? So if you spend, let's say, $50,000 on it, now that Mike, Jersey Mike, that would go down, probably has gone down some. So it may be $60,000 now, but it certainly would be for a 124 scale car, much more expensive mold. So if you're looking at, you're making maybe 2,000 of this car. Let's say you put this car in a set with another livery of a Porsche, so you have two more molds of this that you can make in that year. Let's say you make 2,000 sets. So you've used that mold 4,000 times. Hey, Reese, thanks very, very much for showing up. Let's say you made 4,000 of that mold just in the sets. 2,000 of this mold on top of it for a single release car. Let's say you do 2 open stock cars, 2 solo cars, cars in crystal cases of this. Now you've made 8,000 of a car, 8,000 uses of that mold. From what I understand, it takes 10,000 uses, 10,000 pieces of a mold for a mold to start making money. You see what numbers we're talking about here before you really start making money on a car. If you're only making, 1,000 pieces of a car, it's going to take you a decade to make money back on that mold if you're only making 1,000 pieces, right? So that's why the numbers have to be really high, have to be safe on a car to make a mold, right? Because you're going to spend so much money because you're only going to make so much on each car. Let's say you have a car that costs, let's say this car costs $50. You will have the retailer, I believe, would have bought this car, this $50 car, somewhere around $24 to $29. They're going to mark it up, right? They're going to get, it's about a 40% profit margin. The manufacturer, would charge the distributor or charge Charlie. Cheers from Chambersburg. Cheers, Charlie. I'm in Pennsylvania too, in Hughesville, almost due north of you. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. The car companies are it's gonna cost somewhere less than $10 to make a car in a case and ship it out of the Orient to its destination. Then they charge their distributor on top of that. So then you start to see the numbers each time inflate almost double each time. So if you know the retail price of a car, and we all do, you can work backwards from there. If you know what, Robert Roach was in here, I think maybe a little while ago. Retailers know what they're paying from the manufacturer, from the distributor rather. You can work backwards from there because it's basically increasing the same amount each time. So this car might only cost you $5 to produce in China. By the time it gets to market, it's going to cost you about $50. That's why, and then you have to, so you're only making a small profit as a manufacturer on this car. So you're, hey Clint, cheers for showing up. I saw you in Brian Young's stream a little while ago. He fell off his chair when he saw me in his stream. It was good to see you there commenting too. So you're going to see, you really have to make a lot of cars before you actually start to make money on these, right? So yeah, Clint, very cool. So you really have to make a lot of cars to make money on these. This is not a charity, folks. When you see cars brand new cars at really steeply discounted prices, that's essentially hurting the market. Any retailer will tell you this. Any manufacturer will tell you this. It's exactly, Reese. And I'm hoping I'm saying your number right. Reese, it's not worth the money for low numbers of cars. That's why you see so many Porsches being made. There's a lot of liveries of this car. You can use this exact mold. Carrera is still using this damn mold. Still. Well, not anymore. I got to couch that. They still made it up until about 3 or 4 years ago, right? They still use the same older mold up until very recently when Porsche forced them to change. Porsche would probably have told them, look, you can't, it's obviously a fairly old mold, but you can't use that mold anymore. And Porsche does that. Porsche would say, you simply can't use that mold anymore. You have to change the mold. We're not going to allow you to do that livery that you want to make. And companies absolutely do that. Real car companies absolutely will tell a slot car company, if it's a licensed car, you cannot do this anymore. You cannot use this mold anymore. You have to make a new mold, or we're not going to let you use that mold anymore. Any other questions? Robert Klein. Paolo says, Indy was a lot more popular in the 90s. Absolutely. I totally agree. The look of the cars alone put me off. Yes, the look of the cars alone puts me off. And somehow not with F1. It might be the fact that they're not all the same car in F1. That's not all the same motor in F1. So there's differentiation between the cars, not just livery. I'm really, really uninterested in a single make racing series. I think it's so friggin' boring. Robert Klein says, I watched the Indy season and the Nashville race was pretty amazing. Final from Laguna Seca. I'm not going to say that's bad racing. I'm absolutely not going to say it's bad racing. It just doesn't interest me. And I don't think they do a very good job marketing, which Robert mentions in his second part of his comment. Yes, it's not great marketing. It's not great. And I'm not saying it couldn't be great. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be great. I would like it if it was great. I would like it if there was a great open wheel series. I would like it if there was a strong national racing series that was not NASCAR, right? I wish sports car racing or DTM was popular here. I wish something was popular here that was not, a fake body on a real car, on a chassis, some kind of generic body NASCAR just doesn't do it for me. I will watch it, and I like the road courses in NASCAR, and I'll go to any kind of race. I'll be happy to go to an Indy race. You can't beat live racing. The smell of the racing gas, the smell of the exhaust, the smell of the cars, the heat off of the cars, the sounds, even if the sounds aren't that great out of the motors. I'll go to see any kind of live racing, any kind. Dirt track racing, I love dirt track racing, even small time stuff. Paolo mentions, is a mold for a single car, or they inject a number of cars at a time? So, like if you're asking if there's multiple, like in a mold, if there's the ability to make multiple cars at a time. Yeah, I believe so. I haven't seen molds. I've seen molds, but I haven't seen like exactly all of a plate or a sheet or whatever you want to call it. All of a tooling is what it is. I do know, just to get the volume out, it's, I believe, 1 day's production run of a car is what places in China want to do. So that would be about 1,500 to 2,000 pieces of a specific body mold, not necessarily the paint job. Like when we had the cars behind me, the SCX CUDAs done, we had to have a certain number of cars that we had to make at a time. I say we, I helped Great Traditions get the recent 5 CUDAs made: purple, orange, pink, black, white. Yes. All 5 of those cars, we had to have a run. I think the run was, I can't even remember what the damn run was now. 1,600 cars. We made 100, we made 50 black, 50 white, and then 500 each: pink, orange, purple. That's it. And that was the most limited run they could do. And I believe, just anecdotally, I've talked to people in the business about this, and I believe that's somewhere around a day's use of a mold, because the companies that actually do this, the slot car companies contract with them, right? So molds, a lot of folks don't know this, but molds are they're taken out of production, stored in China, and there may very well be another company's slot cars made in that exact same factory. Now, I used to know this better, but years ago, like Ninco, this is just an example, or this is just a guess, but I know this was the case years ago, that, like, let's say Scalextric and SCX, or Scalextric and Ninco, were made in the same mold and same factory in China. So it would have been like, Carrera and Scalextric maybe were at the exact same factory in Shenzhen in China. That's where all the slot car companies are made. They're made in Shenzhen in China. Cheers, Reese. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. I know it's late in Victoria, in Australia. It means quite a bit. It really does. I'm not just saying that everyone that stops by. We have over 50 people in the chat, or in the watching the stream today. That's insane. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Reese. Totally thank you for stopping by. I know it's crazy late there. It's almost 2 a.m. there now, almost 2 in the morning. Thanks for stopping by. So you can see the numbers we're talking about. It's really expensive to make, even though the cost per car is fairly low. It gets really, really expensive when you start adding everything up. The licensing that you have to pay. What about Joy's Way slot cars? Okay. So slot car companies like Joy's Way, like New Bright, like I think it's called Kid Connection at Walmart, like the Hot Wheels battery operated sets that were in Toys R Us just a few years ago. Those are all like New Bright and Dragon Eye. Dragon Eye is another one. And ADM, the company that Polycar contracts with to make the track and the cars. Some cars, like the Maserati and the Subarus, are, I think, made by ADM. It's I have the catalogs. No, I'm looking over at my catalog shelf. I don't think my ADM catalog is here. It's those are own brand. It's a Chinese. So Joy's Way is cheap Chinese battery operated, probably, slot cars. They're made in very high volume. That company would supply someone, like if Toys R Us or let's say Walmart would go to them and say, hey, I want to make my own brand of slot car set. I want it to be a cheap set. The retail cost can't be more than $20. I want a meter long set or a meter and a half long set, which is essentially like a figure eight, a fairly small layout. 2 cars, thumb plunger controller. I'm not going to tell you have to do anything special to the molds. Sell me a slot car set. Joy's Way would be a company that would say, okay, we can provide you with 10,000 pieces of a battery operated slot car set. We can provide it to you at, let's say, $7 or $8 cost in a box. That would not include shipping. That would include you taking possession of the goods. It's called FOB China, meaning if you're the manufacturer, you charge somebody, let's say, $100,000, just picking a number out of my, what. And then Walmart would have to take possession of those goods in Hong Kong or in their distribution center, maybe just somewhere on mainland, but probably in Hong Kong, because that's where most shipments go out to. Lighthawk is the same thing. Lighthawk is also an own brand. It's Tamiya Canada. Lighthawk is actually better quality stuff, but it's also Chinese goods. It's called market goods is what it's called in the business. If you're in the hobby business or the toy business, that's what it's called. It's called market goods. So like the Carrera radio controlled cars, those aren't cars that were actually made by Carrera. They were branded by Carrera. They were made by another company. Carrera puts their name on them. Carrera might change. Carrera did change a few specs on the cars, but those are almost all, with very few exceptions, cars that were made by a different company, and Carrera put their name on the box and would put their name on the, if it's an RC car, would put their name on the chassis, not the slot car stuff. The slot car stuff is definitely stuff that the companies paid for the molds. The molds are made and they stay in China. You can't take molds out of China, despite what people say. It's nearly impossible to get molds out of China once they're there, because they consider them their property, even though the companies pay for the molds. What else? Thanks for showing up for DeFingers. I really appreciate it. I kind of stumbled over my words there. Martin asks, also the best track for the price. Sell in Canada Carrera. So, any of the brands of slot car sets are going to be good value for money. It's just what you personally like, right? If you like, high grip track like I do, Polycar is the best way to go. All stock tires are going to stick to Polycar track. I haven't driven as many Carrera cars, but I've driven a lot of slotted cars and a lot of Skelectric cars. I've been driving this Skelectric car, the brand new Mustang. I've been driving this car around on my Polycar track. Sticks like glue. Yes, it still has a magnet in it, but you can tell these tires are nice and sticky, and this car sticks really well. And yeah, it's stock Skelectric tires work really well on Polycar track. Not so much on their own track, because their own track has essentially no surface. It's a slick surface. Yes, Jersey Mike. Parsippany slot car show. Very cool. Yep, feel free. If you got a link, Jersey Mike, feel free to post it. Go right ahead. And thanks for letting people know. Yeah, it's hobby shows like that. Slot car shows are a great thing. I wish there were more of them. If Sean Casey is here in chat and hasn't let himself be known, I'm still thinking about the idea of having some kind of show, maybe in Philadelphia, at some point once we get through the pandemic. Sean has been pushing me to do a slot car show, to kind of promote a slot car show, organize a slot car show that people could come to here in the U.S., and picking a place that people could fly into easily. Philadelphia would be the easiest place as far as I'm concerned, because I'm near Philly. Well, not near, I'm 3 hours away. And the problem is when you have a show like this, people might say they would want to come, but probably people wouldn't come from all over the U.S. Our country is just too big to have one national show, unfortunately. But it would be cool if we did have a national slot car show like Slotlandia, like they do in Italy, like they do in some other parts of the world. There's a big one in cheers, Martin. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. I know that there's a big slot show in England. You're talking about a really tiny country. It's super easy to get around on trains there, and it's hours on a train, not hours in a plane to get across. Oh, he just posted. I can show that. There we go. Okay. No problem, Mike. I appreciate it. Yeah, so let's talk a little about some other cars that showed up recently here. New Skelectric stuff that basically just showed up, and some of you all might have the stuff already. And if you do, let me know what you think of it. The police car, the Jag police car, looks really good. I have not had it on the track yet. I'm sure it's going to handle okay. I'm not the best maybe to talk about the shapes on the Jag, to know like how the proportions are. It looks okay to me, which I'm sure Skelectric is like, yeah, whatever, Dave, nobody cares. But the detail looks nice. The detail that's there looks nice, I should say. The light bar looks really nice. There's a nice it's printed police on the back there and on the front. I really like that. The printing on the back is really nice. The glass on the back is really nice for the taillights. The headlights and the grille look okay. So, I mean, the car looks really nice. It's, this is going to be a fairly niche car here in the U.S. anyway. You're not really going to get a whole lot of people that are going to want this car, but you'll definitely have some. I would say if I were telling people to buy this, a retailer, people that I consult for, I would say go light on this car. Sell them out. Buy no more than, let's say, 50 for a retailer, and then you'll sell through them, probably. Police cars do tend to sell well here in the U.S. market. Another car, Back to the Future 2, with the what's the Mr. Fusion on the back? What was it? A food processor on the back. I think Skelectric did a pretty nice job on the mold on this car. I think it looks pretty good. There's an issue, I think, kind of with the nose that I think isn't quite resolved maybe as well as it should be. I think the nose is a little too thin. The back end on the car, I think looks fantastic. I think they got nice proportions there. And I'm sure that these cars, both Back to the Future 1 and 2, and will you expect a 3? You should expect 3. These DeLoreans, I know, have sold very well. I'm happy about that. I think we need more good movie and TV cars in the hobby. It gets kids in the hobby. It gets retailers something fun and different to sell. And I think it's fantastic that they've done this. We had talked about this when I was still working for them, about their plans to do a lot more TV and movie cars. I think they need to. I'm hoping that they keep this going. I'm hoping they see absolutely just blitzing sellout sales with these, because we need this in the hobby. We need this in the hobby like we need our next breath of air. You know, you might not like this car. You might think this is the most stupid fakakta car. Why would you release this car? It's this kind of car can do those knock it out of the ballpark sales. This kind of car will sell outside of the hobby. If you make a set that you could, God forbid, get this into the mass market with a DeLorean and anything else with it in a Back to the Future set, put 2 Back to the Future cars in there. I don't know. This is the kind of car that you could sell to, maybe not this, but maybe 1/43rd scale. You could sell to the mass market, right? Licensed stuff. How do I know it's licensed? Well, Skelectric almost all does license, but you can see on the back here, licensed, Universal, Amblin Entertainment. It's got the license right on the damn box. They are not doing these off the cuff. They are not doing these on the cheap. They are spending lots and lots of money. Jaguar license. They are spending. They are getting the approval of the manufacturer. They are getting the approval of the movie companies. That is expensive, expensive, expensive stuff. Universal, I'm sure, has sales requirements that they have to do. I'm sure that they made. I know the numbers we were talking about when I was still there was in excess of 5,000 pieces of this worldwide that were going to be sold. I believe they had to up the first car, the Back to the Future 1 car. I'm pretty sure they had to up the quantities on that. Those cars got to really high numbers for slot cars. You know, these things would sell, well, not these. These sold really well. These things, if they're just kind of generic 124 and 132 cars, would sell at a fraction of what this would have sold for, because this would have sold at least 5,000 pieces if you're lucky on a really good selling car, like something like that, and the wing falls off immediately. That would probably sell somewhere around the order of 2,000 pieces for the U.S. market. Still, okay, waiting for Kit. Back to the Future is on my Christmas list. Very cool. AG132, cheers. Thanks for showing up. Still waiting for Pioneer to release the Roscoe Monaco patrol car. Who knows? Pioneer is a really cool company because they can do smaller runs on cars because it's a fairly small company. I believe they say that their cars, including the injection molding, is done in the UK. Is it actually done in the UK? Probably. Who am I to say? Certainly the decoration is done. Jules has shown videos, and maybe he's shown videos of them actually making cars in a production facility in the UK. And God bless him if he does. That's fantastic. I love the idea of getting production out of China without getting too deeply into anti-China discussion here. It's done out of necessity, not out of love that pretty much everyone makes things in China. The production costs are still fairly low in China, even though they've gone up quite a bit. So, yeah, I mean, God bless him if he can get stuff out of China, because, if a slot car company would actually produce slot cars here in the U.S., I'd be all over that. I would be absolutely all over that. Could that ever happen? Unfortunately, I doubt it. It just, the production costs are far too high in the U.S., and I don't think it would offset the cost of lower shipping in the U.S., or lower shipping around the U.S. So I don't think it's possible. AG says last year they said release date would be January 2021. Okay, so well, that's clock on the wall says that was a couple months ago, but they're a small company. I mean, where's their CUDA? Where's their Javelin? They announced that about a decade ago now, right? Anyway, what are you going to do? I hope they release it. I wish nothing the best for them, even though Jules and I have had our differences in the recent past, and those differences continue. I'm sure. Anyway, who else is Charger in the movie? Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Mike. Yeah. I mean, movie cars. It's the way forward. It really is. Going on an hour and 10 here. Anybody have any questions? I don't want to go too much longer because I don't want streams to be too long. Anybody has any questions, please let me know. I've gone over a lot today. It's mostly been about production numbers and about sales numbers and things like that. Hello, Leslie. Cheers. Bluesmobile. Chuck asks about a Bluesmobile. I know that's been discussed. I know it's been discussed. I think that would be okay. Not exactly a kid's movie, right? My favorite slot car. I have one of them here. Hold on a second. I don't mean to turn my back on you. But I had to turn my back on you. So, Ninco, years ago, was a thing. This was the number 116 Ninco Sebring Porsche 356. This is a car I bought new years ago. It's still got an NC1 in it. It's got the stock Ninco tires. It's got this is probably slotted braid. It's got louvers on the back. My uncle was a modeler from the 60s and had 1/32 scale louvers that I got him to give me some. This car is at least 12 years old now. I bought this car when it was brand new from Ninco years and years and years ago. So that would have been about 2006, maybe, something like that. It's got a special tonneau cover that's a vacuum formed tonneau cover, and there's texture to it. You're never going to see this, but maybe you can a little bit. I took out the stock interior, cut it a little bit, and then we vacuum formed a tonneau cover. My uncle has a vacuum former, and this is a vacuum formed, very, very thin tonneau cover that I made. So this is a repainted, accurate modeling, and it's probably a little oversized Ninco's cars were a little oversized. Everyone pretty much knows that. I've done a lot of fill on this car. There used to be some side strips down the side. I filled those. There used to be some stuff on the back, some detail on the back. I filled that in. There used to be some holes in the nose. I filled that in, and I re-sculpted the nose. Resanded the nose. I changed the contours of the body a little bit. The body is fairly thick plastic. I've done dozens of hours of sanding on this car. I've done a lot of recontouring on the body. This is a super slow car. This was one of my first slot cars, getting back into slot cars when I got back into the hobby around 2000. I got back into the hobby around 2002. I guess I was out of the hobby. I was in the hobby when I was a kid until I was about maybe 10 or so years old, 12 years old. Then I got out of it for a lot of my teenage years into my 20s, and then got back into it around 30-ish. How does it run? It runs like a dream. It's a super slow car. It's fun to drive. It's easy to drive. Yes, you're right. He does have a 1/32. Yes, Garth, you're right. He and I have talked about that. If I want to do a build of one of his cars, I may. I have to be careful about the builds that I do because I'm not a great model maker, and I don't want to have a car not turn out and then someone's sales be affected by that because I didn't do a great job with the body. John's been very generous with his time with me. So, John's a really great guy, and I appreciate all the support, and I appreciate what he does for his on his channel. If you don't subscribe to John, I have a link in my channel on the front page. It's down at the bottom of all the channels that I'm out front about supporting. That Slot Car Guy. You need to be subscribed to That Slot Car Guy, please. You need to be subscribed to Home Racing World, please. Harry Wise. You need to subscribe to John Kitt's channel, which I think is Fast Sports. Please go subscribe to all of those guys. They all deserve your support. John's videos are definitely kind of a longer form video, and he goes into great depth, fascinating depth about the cars that he builds. He's an excellent modeler. He's a great guy. He's Canadian. How can you not love him? He's Canadian. Very friendly guy. I've talked to him numerous times. Please go subscribe to his channel if you're not already. Thank you very much. So this car is crazy rare now. Unfortunately, the molds have probably been lost to time. It is a mold that I dearly wish someone would make and sell in the larger slot market. I have begged Maurizio to make a 356. Begged him, quite literally. I have a new slot client that I'm still getting set up, let's say. I will beg them to make this car at some point. This car deserves to be made again in the modern era. It is a readily identifiable Porsche with tons and tons of liveries. Could be made as a nice, slow home set car. And yeah, it's just a beautiful car. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a Porsche guy. I'll never own one. I don't have that kind of money, but I do like my Porsche slot cars. There you go. Porsches for you. Car 54. Where are you? Fly decals, by the way. Fly decals from an old Fly set. So this is my favorite car. It's a little tippy. It's a lot of, the car's a lot of fun to drive. It's got a nice slow motor. An NC1 motor is 15,000 RPM at 15. It's essentially 14.8 nominal 15 volts. Very slow slot car, but just it's like this car should not be fast. It should be a dream to drive. It should be roly-poly. It should be, a little bit of a handful because the real cars are. But yeah, that's probably my favorite slot car. Okay, we won't have it. Nobody else, please discuss the Formula One result. I'm probably going to rewatch it later as well. I have it on DVR. So before I sign off here, does anybody have any questions? I appreciate everybody for stopping by. What do you think about Formula One SNR Bass Race Competition? I'm sorry. I don't know what that is. Garth, I'm going to be able to tell you about the company when things are finalized and when they give the approval for that. We've come to an agreement on a number of things. We're working on product lines now specifically for the US. I don't know that these products probably will not get here this year because we're getting close to the end of this year. And things really for the end of the year really do need to be here by now or be on the water by now because, Christmas sales anyway. So I know I've kind of been teasing this and I'm not, I really want to talk about it, of course, but I can't yet. So there you go. That slot car is a Sunday driver. Absolutely, it's a Sunday driver. But then again, that's who I am. I'm a Sunday driver. Doesn't 3D printing bring down production costs? Yes, it does, but the finish on the body is not quite there yet. It's not really as durable as, injection molded. Slot car bodies are good and strong for what they are, and the medium isn't quite there yet for injection or for 3D printing. It's not quite there yet. It absolutely will be there, though. I have no doubt that Leslie, Leslie, that no doubt that fairly soon, meaning in the next 5 years or so, you will see a shift begin to happen where some slot car company probably will release a print release, that you'll see something that's just a 3D printed release through their own 3D printed shop, as a guess. I don't know that this is going to happen, but I'm sure, because things move along so fastly with technology like this, that I'm sure that will happen at some point reasonably soon, and that's probably within the next 5 or so years. It's a European race car. Which one? This one? Absolutely it is. So, anybody else have any questions? 58 people. Thank you all very much. If you're here and you enjoyed the stream, please give it a like. And if you watch any of my videos, please give me a like, because that helps YouTube bump up the videos so people can see them. If you don't like my videos, I thank you for stopping by, and I appreciate that. And I get that maybe you don't want to give it a thumbs up. That's okay too. Leslie asks, why not make kits and hobbyists build it? So, Leslie, I've done a video back last year about white kits and why they do or don't sell. Please watch that video. The short answer is people don't like to paint. They don't know how to paint. Parents generally haven't. The digital slot racing thing, European slot car. I don't really know much about it. So I'm sorry, Martin. Hello, Carl. Thank you for stopping by. Hello, Jordy. Thank you for stopping by. People don't really know how to paint. They don't really want to put a kit together. Now, granted, most of the companies haven't done really great instructions on kits. That's hurt a lot of the ideas of making white kits and selling them as a kit. Recently, people have had better luck in sales with pre-painted solid color bodies like Polycar, like some of the NSR stuff. Those I'm sure have sold. I've heard from Maurizio that the Monoposto cars, the pre-painted cars, have sold quite well, and that maybe that's the way forward, that pre-painted solid color body cars will be what people release then, and maybe that's a better option than a totally unpainted car or a car that's painted white, which is the worst option, frankly, because you then have to strip it to paint it unless you have exactly the same type of paint. Jordy says, well, maybe 3D is an option to develop rare models. Absolutely. That's where, Area 71 has done really great and will continue to do really great with very limited, very specialized cars. I did a review fairly recently of some of their cars. You can find that in the channel here as well. And those cars, those molds are beautiful. I believe they're going to make oh God, what is it? Starts with R, not Road. The big Panzer Porsche, the modern, it's like a steel gray, Porsche with the nice kind of tail, a really sculpted out tail. God, I follow the guy. I follow Rod Emery. Emery made a Porsche that has an absolutely beautiful, old school and yet modern. Looks like a horseshoe crab. The thing is just crazy cool looking, and Area 71 is going to be making that car. And I think that would be the way forward with a very limited livery of car like that, a very specialized car. Absolutely, Jordy hits it on the nose there. Yeah, you have to decal it, you have to paint it. It's definitely a lot more of a process. Salvatore, thank you very much. I've used 3D chassis on older cars with success. Absolutely. And that's where 3D printing, I think, definitely has had a massive benefit for the hobbyist end of slot cars. You can get, a 3D printed chassis for this car and make it a lot faster than it would ever be with the Scalextric flat chassis. You can make it into a really high quality, high performance, hobbyist grade of car with a 3D printed chassis. And that's where I think 3D printing is now in the sweet spot, right? Where they can produce stuff at a fairly low cost, at a fairly high volume, that people now can make money on a per piece production because they can just print them as needed. I have a whole bunch of 3D chassis here that I've done varying degrees of things with. That's where you can really get the value out of printing currently in the hobby. At some point, the finish on the body will be equal to that, I believe, of an injection molded body. I'm sure of that. It's gonna take time, but like I said, probably within 5 years, you will see really high quality 3D printing. I'm sure of it, and then the major manufacturers will have to decide what they're going to do. Will they continue to release cars, kind of this way, kind of in their own boxes, or will they decide to test the market and make, let's say, this car, this mold, only as a 3D print? I think we'll see that first with a tentative car or two. I'll be encouraging some folks that still choose to listen to me, that thankfully have asked my opinion, to say, hey, why don't you try a 3D printed release only of a car? That way you only have the cost of designing a body, and then people can 3D print it, and you'll know if it was worth doing. And if it's worth doing, maybe we'll see that then. That I think that'll be the first step. Yes, I will be doing a Mustang video. I probably won't. I'll do something with Back to the Future cars, but I'll definitely be doing a Mustang video. Put it on the Polycar track. I've changed my track up a little bit, and I'm a little happier with the shape on it now. Yeah. So, okay, folks. Here endeth the stream. Thank you all very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Cheers to everybody. We had over 50 people here. That's an all-time high. Thank you so much for stopping by. It really means quite a bit. Hey, Raymond, cheers. Thanks for stopping by. Clint, thanks for stopping by. Salvatore, Mac, Jordy, Martin, Carl, Chris, Manny Mo, Jack, Alvin, Theodore, Simon, everybody. It means a lot. See you all again soon.